Lily Brennan pressed her nose against the glass window of the botanical garden, watching purple flowers sway in the artificial breeze. At 8 years old, she had memorized every plant in this section of Station Harmonia. Her parents worked down in maintenance, fixing pipes and recycling systems, which meant Lily spent most afternoons wandering the quieter parts of the station. The other kids thought she was weird. Human children were rare enough out here in the outer spiral, but Lily took it to another level. While other species taught their young to fear and respect dangerous things, Lily just wanted to understand them. Last month, she had convinced the avian security officer to let her watch him handle a containment breach. The breach turned out to be a confused space rat that had chewed through a cargo container. Everyone else screamed and ran. Lily had walked right up and offered it a piece of her sandwich. Today felt different, though. Something electric buzzed in the recycled air of the station. The first alarm made her jump. Red lights began spinning along the corridor ceilings, painting everything in bloody flashes. Lily had lived on Harmonia for 3 years and never heard that particular siren before. An automated voice crackled through the speakers, calm but firm. All residents proceed to designated safe zones immediately. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill. Lily ran toward the main concourse where crowds were already gathering. Beings of every shape and size rushed past her, some on 2 legs, some on 4, some floating on anti-gravity platforms. Parents clutched their children close. Shop owners sealed their storefronts with metal shutters. She found her mother near the central fountain, frantically searching the crowd. Ruth Brennan nearly collapsed with relief when she spotted her daughter. Thank God. Come on, we need to get to the shelter. What's happening? Her mother pulled her along, moving fast. Something came through the outer docking bay. Something big. What kind of something? Ruth hesitated. Around them, Lily could hear the word being whispered in a dozen languages. Draken, draken, draken. Mom, what's a draken? A predator, sweetie. A very dangerous one. The kind you run from, not toward. Understand. They reached their assigned shelter, a reinforced room deep in the residential sector. David Brennan was already there, his maintenance uniform covered in grease. He hugged them both tight. Through the transparent aluminum wall, Lily could see Commander Felnix on the central screen. The avian administrator's feathers were puffed up in distress, making him look twice his normal size. Remain calm, he was saying, though his voice suggested he was struggling to follow his own advice. Security forces are handling the situation. The creature is contained in Docking Bay 7. All passages have been sealed. Lily watched the crowd around her. She had never seen so many different species united in the same emotion. Pure terror. A crystalline family huddled together, their facets dimming with fear. A group of insectoid traders clicked their mandibles nervously. Even the usually stoic aquatics looked disturbed. Has anyone ever survived a draken attack? Someone asked. Not by fighting, an elderly avian replied. You survive by not being there when it arrives. Lily's mind raced. She had read about drakens in the station library. Massive reptilian creatures from the scorched worlds, breathing fire, nearly impossible to kill. But she had also read that most species had never actually tried to communicate with them. Every encounter ended in violence because it started with weapons. What if the draken was just scared? She thought about the space rat. About how everyone had assumed it was vicious because it was trapped and desperate. But when she had approached it slowly, speaking softly, it had just been hungry and confused. Her father was discussing something with another maintenance worker. Her mother had her eyes closed, probably praying. Nobody was watching Lily. She slipped toward the door. The corridor outside was empty, eerily silent except for the distant sound of alarms. Lily knew these halls better than most people. Her parents had shown her the maintenance tunnels, the service passages, all the hidden ways to move through the station. They had taught her in case of emergency, never imagining she would use that knowledge to run toward danger instead of away from it. She moved quickly, staying low. Security cameras swept the halls, but she knew their blind spots. Down one level, through the service shaft, across the cargo processing area. Each step took her closer to Docking Bay 7. Through the walls, she could hear it, a sound that made the metal vibrate. Not quite a roar, not quite a scream. Something raw and primal that spoke of pain and fear and fury all mixed together. Lily paused at a junction. Her hands were shaking slightly, and her heart hammered against her ribs. Maybe everyone was right. Maybe she should turn around, go back to her parents, let the security forces handle this. But then she heard it again. That sound. And underneath the fear and fury, she heard something else. Loneliness. Lily took a deep breath and kept walking. The observation deck overlooking docking bay 7 was deserted. She climbed onto a cargo container to see through the reinforced window. The Draken was massive, bigger than any picture she had seen. Its scales were deep red and black, catching the harsh emergency lights like molten metal. Wings that could have wrapped around a small ship were folded against its sides. One wing hung at an odd angle, torn and bleeding something that glowed blue against the dark scales. The creature was surrounded by automated defense turrets, all aimed at its head. Energy barriers boxed it into one corner of the bay. It paced back and forth, limping slightly, its golden eyes darting at every movement. Lily pressed her hand against the glass. "You're scared," she whispered, just like the rat. Below, the Draken suddenly went still. Its massive head turned, almost as if it had heard her, and Lily made a decision that would change everything. She started looking for a way down. Security footage later showed exactly when things went wrong. The timestamp read 14:47 station time, 3 minutes after the last evacuation warning. A small figure appeared on camera 12, moving through a cargo access tunnel that should have been locked in the command center. Nobody was watching camera 12. They were all focused on the Draken. Lily found the access hatch behind a stack of shipping containers. Her father had shown her this entrance once, explaining it was for emergency equipment delivery. She remembered the code because it was her birthday backwards. Her fingers trembled as she entered the numbers. The hatch opened with a hiss. The cargo platform lowered her slowly into the docking bay. The sound of machinery seemed impossibly loud. Lily crouched low, certain the Draken would notice, certain the automated defenses would trigger, certain someone would stop her. Nothing happened. Her feet touched the metal floor of the bay. She was inside. The Draken was 50 meters away, still pacing behind the energy barriers. Up close, it was even more enormous. Each scaled foot was the size of a transport vehicle. Its tail, dragging behind it, left score marks on the reinforced floor. Heat radiated from its body in visible waves. Lily stepped out from behind the platform. She was completely exposed now, a tiny human child standing in an empty docking bay with a creature that could end her life with one careless movement. In the command center, someone screamed. Commander Felnick spun toward camera 12's feed and felt his blood freeze. Who is that? How'd a child get in there? An officer was already checking the biometric scanners. Lily Brennan, age 8, daughter of maintenance workers David and Ruth Brennan. "Sir, she's inside the containment zone. Get her out. Now. Send in a security team." Dr. Harrow grabbed the commander's arm. The human xenobiologist had been studying the Draken remotely, and his face was pale, but his voice was steady. Any sudden movement might trigger an attack response. If armed personnel enter that bay, the Draken will see them as threats. "So what do we do? Watch her die?" "I don't know," Harrow admitted. "But I know the human child just did something no one else in this galaxy would dare attempt." The Draken had noticed her. Its pacing stopped. The massive head swung in her direction, golden eyes with vertical slits focusing on the small figure in the middle of the bay. Lily's survival instincts screamed at her to run. Every cell in her body knew she was prey standing before a predator. But she had learned something important from her years on the station, from her encounters with frightened creatures that everyone else feared. Fear makes things worse. She stood very still and raised her hands slowly, palms out. The gesture was universal across most species. See, no weapons, not a threat. The Draken tilted its head slightly, reminding Lily of a confused dog. She took one step forward. In the command center, someone gasped. Her parents had just arrived, summoned by security when they discovered Lily missing from the shelter. Ruth Brennan's scream cut through the tense silence. "That's my daughter. Get her out of there." David held his wife back, his face gray with terror, but his eyes were locked on the screen. He knew his daughter. He had seen that determined expression before. Lily took another step, then another. She was walking at a steady pace now, not fast enough to seem aggressive, not slow enough to seem hesitant. Just walking, like she was approaching any other new friend. The Draken remained motionless, watching her approach. Its nostrils flared, taking in her scent. No fierce smell. This creature, this tiny, soft thing, was approaching without the chemical signature of terror that the Draken had smelled from every other being since arriving on this station. Lily kept her eyes on the Draken's face. She had read that direct eye contact could be challenging for predators, but looking away could trigger a chase response. So she found a middle ground, watching the creature's eyes while keeping her expression soft and open. "Hi," she said quietly. Her voice barely carried across the distance. "I know you're scared. This is all really loud and bright, and everyone is pointing weapons at you. That must be awful." The Draken's ear frills twitched. It could not understand her words, but the tone was unlike anything it had experienced. Soft, gentle, the sound a mother might make to a frightened child. Lily was 20 meters away now, close enough to see the individual scales, each one larger than her hand. Close enough to see the wound on the wing weeping that strange blue fluid. Close enough to die instantly if this went wrong. She kept walking. "I had a cat once, back on Earth before we moved to the station. She was really mean to everyone except me. You know why? Because everyone else tried to grab her when she was scared. I just sat down and waited for her to come to me." 15 meters, the Draken lowered its body slightly, coiling its legs underneath. The movement made security officers reach for their weapons, but Dr. Harrow stopped them with a gesture. He had studied enough predators to recognize the posture. Not preparing to pounce, preparing to be less intimidating. 10 meters. Lily could feel the heat now, like standing too close to a fire. The Draken's breathing was loud. Each exhale a rush of hot air that smelled like sulfur and smoke. Its eyes never left her. 5 meters. She stopped walking. Any closer would be forcing interaction, and forced interaction never worked with frightened animals. Instead, she did something that made every watching being question her sanity. Lily sat down cross-legged on the floor. She placed her hands in her lap and smiled up at the Draken. "Whenever you're ready," she said. "I'll wait." The Draken stared at this impossible creature. Then, very slowly, it began to lower its enormous head toward her. The Draken's breath washed over Lily in hot waves. Up close, the creature's eye was enormous, a golden sphere larger than her entire head. She could see herself reflected in it, a tiny figure sitting calmly on cold metal while a being of legend studied her. The moment stretched. In the command center, no one dared breathe. Ruth Brennan buried her face in her husband's chest, unable to watch. Commander Felnix had his hand on the emergency containment switch, ready to drop every barrier between the child and the creature, though everyone knew it would be too late if the Draken decided to attack. Lily kept very still. She had learned patience from her father, who could spend hours repairing a single broken circuit. Rushing never helped. Neither did fear. The Draken's head was now level with hers, so close she could have reached out and touched it. She did not reach out. Not yet. That was the mistake most people made, assuming they could force connection. Real connection happened when both sides were ready. The creature's nostril, a slit in the scaled snout, expanded as it drew in her scent deeply. Lily heard a sound rumbling from deep in the Draken's chest. Not quite a growl, more like distant thunder. She felt the vibration through the floor. Then the Draken did something unexpected. It exhaled softly through its nose, a gentle huff that ruffled Lily's dark hair. The gesture was almost playful, testing her reaction. Lily giggled. She could not help it. The breath smelled terrible, like burned metal and old smoke, and it tickled. The sound made the Draken pull back slightly, ear frills raising in what might have been surprise. This small creature was not afraid. It was laughing. Slowly, carefully, Lily extended her right hand. Palm up, fingers relaxed. The same way she had offered her hand to the space rat, to the nervous station cat, to every frightened creature she had ever met. "I'm Lily," she said softly. "You're really beautiful, you know that?" The Draken stared at her hand. Such a tiny thing, soft and scaleless, more fragile than the smallest bone in the Draken's body. One claw could slice through it without effort, but something in the creature's ancient memory stirred. A recognition that transcended species and language. This was an offer. An invitation. A bridge extended across the gap between their vastly different worlds. The Draken extended one massive claw, moving with extraordinary care. The black talon, sharp enough to tear through ship hull, touched Lily's palm with the delicacy of a falling feathered contact. In the command center, Dr. Harrow was crying openly. "I can't believe what I'm seeing," he whispered. "This shouldn't be possible." David Brennan watched his daughter touch a creature of nightmare and felt his heart swell with terrified pride. "That's my girl," he said quietly. "She's braver than all of us." Lily kept her hand steady as the Draken's claw rested against her skin. The heat radiating from the creature was intense, but not painful. She could feel the rough texture of the scale beneath her fingers. "You're hurt," she observed, looking at the damaged wing. "That must really hurt. I fell off the climbing structure last year and broke my arm. It was awful." The Draken rumbled again, and this time Lily recognized the sound for what it was. Not a threat, a response. The creature was trying to communicate. She stood up slowly, keeping her movements gentle and predictable. The Draken watched her rise, but did not pull away. Lily walked carefully around the massive head toward the injured wing. "May I look?" she asked, as if the Draken could understand. But the tone mattered more than the words. Respect mattered. The Draken shifted slightly, extending the damaged wing. The membrane was torn in 3 places, and the blue fluid that served as its blood had pooled on the floor. Lily had no medical training, but she knew pain when she saw it. She turned toward the nearest security camera, knowing they were watching. She gestured at the wing, then pointed to herself and made a bandaging motion. The message was clear. This creature needed help, and she was asking them to provide it. Commander Felnix stared at the screen. "She wants us to send medical supplies into a containment zone with an active Draken." An officer looked horrified. "Sir, we cannot risk more lives." Dr. Harrow stepped forward. "I'll go. I'll take a medical kit and approach exactly as the child did. Slowly, respectfully." "You're certain?" The doctor straightened his shoulders. "That child has shown us something we needed to see. These creatures are not mindless beasts. They're intelligent, capable of choice. If she can do this, so can I." 20 minutes later, the cargo platform lowered Dr. Harrow into the bay. He carried a large medical kit and moved with exaggerated slowness. The Draken's head swung toward him, and for a moment, the creature's posture shifted toward defensive. Lily placed her hand on the Draken's snout. "It's okay. He's here to help. He's a friend." The simple touch calmed the creature. It relaxed, watching the doctor approach, but not moving to attack. Harrow knelt beside the wing, hands shaking slightly as he opened the medical kit. "Hello there, magnificent one," he said softly. "Let's see what we can do about this wound." Working together, Lily and Dr. Harrow cleaned and dressed the tears in the wing membrane. The Draken remained perfectly still throughout, occasionally rumbling when something hurt, but never pulling away. Lily talked the entire time, a stream of gentle commentary that seemed to soothe both the creature and the terrified doctor. "There," Harrow said finally, sealing the last bandage. "That should help it heal." The Draken turned its head, looking at each of them in turn. Then it did something that would be replayed 1,000,000 times across the galactic network. It lowered its head and gently touched its snout to Lily's chest, right over her heart. A gesture of gratitude that needed no translation. Lily wrapped her arms around the Draken's snout as far as they would reach. "You're welcome," she whispered. "You're safe now. I promise." In that moment, watching through the cameras, the galaxy learned something new about humanity. They did not conquer through strength or dominate through fear. They conquered through something far more powerful. They offered friendship to monsters, and monsters became something else entirely. 3 days had passed since the incident. Station Harmonia was still buzzing with activity, but the energy had shifted from panic to curiosity. News feeds across the galaxy showed the same footage on repeat. A human child walking calmly towards certain death, sitting down, and making a friend. Lily spent every waking hour in Docking Bay 7. Her parents had tried to enforce normal routines, but Commander Felnix himself had overruled them. The Draken became agitated whenever Lily left, refusing food and pacing the containment area until she returned. The creature had a name now. Through careful observation and a developing system of gestures, Lily had learned to communicate basic concepts. She had pointed to herself and said Lily enough times that the Draken seemed to understand it was her identifier. When she pointed to the creature and raised her eyebrows questioningly, it had huffed and tapped its chest with one claw, then gestured at its wings. Ash Wing, Lily had decided, watching the way light played across the dark scales. Is that okay? The Draken had rumbled, and what she had learned was approval to Doctor. Harrow had barely left the bay either. He had set up a mobile research station in one corner, documenting everything. The data was revolutionary. Drakens had always been classified as territorial predators with animal-level intelligence. But Ashwing was proving that assessment wrong. The creature understood cause and effect. When medical teams needed to check the wing's healing progress, Ashwing would extend it voluntarily. When food was delivered, the Draken waited until given permission before eating, as if understanding the concept of manners. Most remarkably, Ashwing had learned to modulate strength and temperature around fragile beings. Watch this, Lily said to her father during one visit. She held up a piece of fruit from her lunch. Ashwing, gentle. The massive head lowered. Jaws that could crush steel opened carefully, and a long tongue, surprising pink against the dark scales, delicately took the fruit from her palm. David Brennan shook his head in amazement. I still can't believe this is real, he muttered. 3 days ago, we thought we would watch you die. Now you're hand-feeding a Draken. Ashwing was never going to hurt me, Lily said with absolute certainty. Everyone was just too scared to see it. But not everyone had adjusted to the new reality. That afternoon, a delegation arrived from the Galactic Council. 6 representatives from 6 different species, all looking deeply uncomfortable as they entered the docking bay. That Ashwing's posture immediately shifted to defensive, wings spreading slightly despite the healing injuries. The creature recognized authority figures and did not trust them. Lily moved to stand between the Draken and the delegates. It's okay, she said to Ashwing. Then to the delegates, you're scaring them. Can you maybe look less threatening? A crystalline representative, her facets reflecting the harsh bay lights, spoke with a voice like wind chimes. Child, we mean no harm. We have come to discuss the situation. What situation? Lily asked, though she suspected she knew. The Draken situation, an insectoid delegate clarified. The creature cannot remain on this station indefinitely. Why not? Lily's voice had an edge to it that made her father wince. He recognized that tone. His daughter had inherited her mother's stubbornness. Because it is a predator, the crystalline said gently. A dangerous one. The peace you have achieved is remarkable, but it is not sustainable. Eventually, instinct will override whatever bond you have formed. Dr. Harrow stepped forward. With respect, your assessment is based on incomplete data. We have observed complex social behaviors, emotional regulation, and clear signs of higher intelligence. This is not a mindless beast following instinct. Then what is it? An avian delegate challenged. A person, Lily said simply. Ashwing is a person, just different from us. The delegates exchanged glances. The concept was radical. Personhood had always been defined by certain criteria: language, technology, social structure. Drakens had none of these in forms that other species recognized. Even if we accept your premise, the insectoid said carefully, there remains the practical concern. Station Harmonia is a civilian installation. Housing a Draken poses risks. Ashwing is safer than half the species on this station, Lily argued. The aquatic in Section 9 can produce enough poison to kill everyone in a 100-meter radius. Nobody tries to kick them out. The aquatic has never eaten anyone. Neither has Ashwing. Commander Felnix had been listening from the observation deck. He activated his communicator. If I may interrupt. His voice echoed through the bay. The child makes a valid point. We have many potentially dangerous beings on this station. We manage risk through understanding and accommodation. Why should this be different? Because Drakens have a history, the crystalline replied. Every encounter on record has ended in violence. Every encounter started with weapons, Dr. Harrow countered. Show me one instance where a Draken was approached peacefully, and I'll show you what actually happens. This is that instance. And what happened? No violence. Just a frightened creature grateful for kindness. The debate continued for hours. Lily sat with Ashwing during most of it, leaning against the warm scales while bureaucrats argued about the dragon's fate. At one point, she felt the rumbling in Ashwing's chest that meant the creature was upset. "I won't let them take you away," she promised quietly. "You're my friend. Friends protect each other." As evening approached, the delegates prepared to leave without reaching a conclusion. The crystalline paused near Lily on her way out. "Child, your courage has moved many hearts. But courage alone cannot reshape galactic law. We will reconvene tomorrow with a decision." After they left, Lily's mother arrived with dinner. Ruth sat beside her daughter, watching Ashwing doze in the corner. "What if they say no?" Lily asked quietly. "What if they make Ashwing leave?" Ruth Brennan had no easy answers. She pulled her daughter close. "Then we fight for your friend. That's what humans do. We fight for what matters." Across the bay, Dr. Harrow was compiling his research into a formal report. He had been sending preliminary findings to colleagues throughout the galaxy. The response was overwhelming. Scientists, diplomats, even military strategists were fascinated by what had happened on Station Harmonia. One message stood out. It came from Earth, from the director of an animal behavior institute. Harrow read it 3 times, then smiled. "Commander," he said into his communicator, "I think I know how to win this argument." The next day's council meeting would change everything. The council chamber aboard Station Harmonia had never been so crowded. Representatives filled every seat, while observers packed the viewing galleries. News services from 40 systems had requested live feeds. What happened here would set precedent across the galaxy. Lily sat in the front row, flanked by her parents. She wore her nicest dress, the blue one her grandmother had sent from Earth. She had wanted to look grown up for this, even though her feet barely touched the floor from the chair. Ashwing was not present, confined to the docking bay, but multiple screens showed live feeds of the dragon. The creature paced restlessly, clearly sensing Lily's absence. Commander Felnix called the session to order. "We gather to determine the fate of the dragon designated Ashwing. Dr. Harrow, you requested the opportunity to present evidence. The floor is yours." The doctor stood, activating a holographic display. "Thank you, Commander. Honored council members, I want to talk to you about Earth." Images appeared in the air above them. Ancient cave paintings showing humans alongside wolves. Medieval tapestries depicting knights with hunting birds. Modern photos of service dogs, therapy horses, even humans swimming with dolphins. "Humanity has a unique evolutionary history," Harrow began. "We did not develop in isolation from predators. We developed alongside them. And instead of simply fearing dangerous animals, humans learned to understand them, to work with them, to befriend them." He gestured to the images. Wolves became dogs. Wild horses became partners in labor and war. Raptors became hunting companions. Humanity took creatures that could kill us and forged bonds that benefited both species. This is not weakness. It is our greatest strength. A insectoid counselor raised an objection. "Those are domesticated animals, bred over generations to be docile. The draken is wild. Every domesticated species started wild," Harrow countered. "The first human to approach a wolf took the same risk Lily took with Ashwing. The difference is that wolf had every reason to see humans as threats. We competed for food, for territory. Ashwing has no such competition with us." The creature was simply frightened. He brought up new data: brain scans, behavioral analyses, communication patterns. "In 1 week, we have learned more about draken intelligence than centuries of military encounters revealed." Why? Because we stopped treating Ashwing as a threat and started treating the creature as an individual. The crystalline counselor who had visited the bay spoke up. "Your research is compelling, Dr. Harrow, but it addresses capability, not safety. How do we know this draken will not revert to violent behavior?" "You don't," a new voice said. Everyone turned as an elderly woman entered the chamber. She wore the insignia of Earth's diplomatic corps. "I am Ambassador Patricia Wong. I apologize for my late arrival. May I address the council?" Felnix nodded, looking curious. Ambassador Wong moved to stand beside Dr. Harrow. "I have spent 40 years studying human-animal relationships. I have seen humans work with grizzly bears, killer whales, and crocodiles, creatures perfectly capable of killing their handlers. Yet attacks are remarkably rare. Do you know why?" She looked around the chamber. Because relationship is a two-way bond. When you treat an intelligent creature with respect, when you meet its needs and honor its nature, it reciprocates. What Lily did was not magic. It was the same approach humans have used for thousands of years. Wong pulled up footage of Ashwing and Lily together, the draken gently taking food, lowering its head for scratches, carefully maneuvering around the small human to avoid accidental harm. This is not a wild animal barely restrained. This is a thinking being who has chosen peaceful interaction. The draken could break through those barriers anytime. The creature stays because of choice, not containment. Lily raised her hand timidly. Felnix looked surprised, but nodded for her to speak. She stood up, her voice small but steady. I know I'm just a kid, and I don't know all the big words everyone is using. But I know Ashwing, not as data or research, as my friend. She walked to the center of the chamber, looking up at the counselors. Ashwing was scared and hurt. Everyone pointed guns and built walls. But nobody asked what the creature needed. Nobody tried to help. They just wanted it gone. Her voice grew stronger. On Earth, we have this saying. Dogs are called humanity's best friend, right? But a long time ago, they were wolves. Dangerous predators. Someone had to be the first to try. To offer friendship instead of fighting. That's what I did. That's what humans do. She pointed to the screen, showing Ashwing. The creature isn't dangerous because it's a draken. It was dangerous because it was scared. We made it safe by being kind. Isn't that better than just being afraid forever? Silence filled the chamber. The simplicity of her argument cut through layers of bureaucratic complexity. The avian counselor leaned forward. Child, what if the creature one day forgets this kindness? What if instinct overrides training? Ashwing isn't trained, Lily said firmly. You train animals to obey. Friends choose to be good to each other. Ashwing chooses to be gentle with me. I choose to trust the creature. That's what friendship is. Ambassador Wong smiled. The child understands something we sophisticated adults often forget. Trust is not a guarantee of safety. It is a choice to believe in the best of someone, even when they could hurt you. Humanity has built entire civilizations on that principle. The council deliberated for 2 hours. Lily waited, holding her mother's hand, watching Ashwing pace on the screens. She whispered to the image, knowing the creature could not hear. It's going to be okay. I promise. Finally, Felnix returned his seat. His expression was unreadable. The council has reached a decision, he announced. By a vote of 8-4, with 2 abstentions, we have approved a provisional arrangement. Lily held her breath. Ashwing will be permitted to remain on Station Harmonia under the following conditions. The creature will be part of a long-term study on interspecies bonding. Dr. Harrow will serve as primary researcher. Lily Brennan, with her parents' permission, will serve as primary liaison. A specialized habitat will be constructed adjacent to the botanical gardens. This arrangement will be reviewed quarterly. Lily did not hear the rest. She was already running toward the docking bay, her parents calling after her, laughing and crying at once. Ashwing was waiting. The draken's head lifted as the door opened, golden eyes finding the small human immediately. The rumble that came from deep in the creature's chest was joy. For months later, Station Harmonia looked completely different. The botanical gardens had expanded into what residents now called the Dragon Wing, a massive dome where purple flowers grew alongside heat-resistant plants from the scorched worlds. At the center, resting on a platform of smooth stone, Ashwing watched the daily traffic of curious visitors. Children were the bravest, naturally. While adult beings of various species maintained cautious distances, youngsters crept closer, drawn by the magnificent creature. Ashwing had learned to stay very still during these encounters, allowing small hands to touch scales, letting younglings climb carefully on the lower parts of the tail. Lily supervised every interaction, teaching the other children what she had learned. Gentle hands, quiet voices. If Ashwing's ear frills go flat, give space. See how they're up and relaxed? That means friendly. A small insectoid child, barely 3 years old, approached with clicking mandibles. Her parent watched nervously from behind a planter. Lily knelt beside the child. Want to say hello? The child clicked rapidly, their species' version of an excited yes. Lily guided the small hand to Ashwing's snout. The draken exhaled softly, warm breath ruffling the child's antennae. The child's clicking turned to delighted chirping. See, Lily said to the watching parent, Ashwing is good with kids. Better than most adults, honestly. Dr. Harrow documented everything from his observation station. His research had become the most accessed scientific paper in galactic history. Universities across 40 systems were now studying the Harmonia model, as it had become known. How to approach potentially dangerous species with respect rather than weapons. But the real test came on a Tuesday morning, station time. Alarms woke Lily from sleep. Not the calm evacuation tones from Ashwing's arrival, but sharp, urgent blasts. Her father burst into her room, already dressed in his emergency maintenance gear. Pirates, he said shortly. 3 ships. They've disabled our communication relay and are demanding access to the cargo holds. Get to the shelter now. Lily's mind raced. Where's Ashwing? Lily, no, not this time. This is not your responsibility. But she was already running, pulling on clothes as she moved. She knew her father would not physically stop her, not after everything that had happened. She heard him curse and follow. The dragon wing was in chaos. Automated defenses were activating, metal shutters beginning to seal. Ashwing stood in the center of the dome, neck arched, wings spread despite the healed injuries still being tender. The dragon's eyes were locked on something beyond the transparent aluminum ceiling. Lily ran to the creature's side. You can feel them, can't you? The danger. Ashwing's rumble was different from any sound she had heard before. Deeper, harder. This was not the gentle giant who played with children. This was the apex predator, the creature of legend, fully awakened. Commander Felnix's voice crackled through speakers. All residents remain in shelters. Security forces are engaging the pirates. Do not, under any circumstances, leave safe zones. Lily looked up at Ashwing. The draken looked down at her. In that exchange, an understanding passed between them. Ashwing had a home now, had friends, had younglings who touched scaled snouts with trusting hands. And home was worth protecting. You want to help? Lily said. Not a question. The rumble confirmed it. She ran to the nearest communication panel. Commander Felnix, this is Lily. I'm in the dragon wing with Ashwing. The creature wants to defend the station. Static, then Felnix's voice strained with stress. Absolutely not. We cannot release a draken during a hostile engagement. The risk is too great. Greater than letting pirates tear through the station. An explosion rocked the structure. Somewhere close, hull plating had been breached. Lily heard screams through the walls. Families fleeing deeper into the station's core. Doctor Harrow's voice joined the channel. Commander, you know my research. You know what Ashwing is capable of. We have a protector right here, and we're keeping it caged. Another explosion. Closer this time. Lily could see through the dome ceiling. A pirate ship maneuvering into docking position. Weapons armed, Felnix made a decision that would either save them or doom them. Release the outer barriers. Lily, if that creature harms one innocent being, I will hold you personally responsible. Ashwing won't. I promise. The dome's ceiling retracted. Ashwing needed no further invitation. The draken launched upward with a power that shook the gardens, wings catching air that should have been too thin to provide lift. But drakens were creatures of impossible physics, and Ashwing rode the station's gravity field like a surfer on waves. The pirates saw it coming. They fired, energy weapons tracking the massive form. But Ashwing was not the trapped, wounded creature from 4 months ago. This was a draken at full strength, defending its territory. Fire bloomed in the vacuum. Real fire, burning with heat that should have required oxygen. The pirate ship's hull began to glow red. Ashwing struck with claws that tore through military-grade plating like fabric. The ship broke apart, pieces spinning away into space. Escape pods ejecting desperately. The other 2 pirate vessels immediately changed trajectory. They had come for easy prey. They had found a dragon. Ashwing pursued, roaring silence into the void, and the pirates fled. Station Harmonia's sensors tracked them until they jumped to hyperspace, running faster than they had ever run before. The draken returned to the station gentle as a falling leaf, landing in the gardens where children waited. Ashwing folded wings carefully, mindful of the flowers, and lowered a head to accept Lily's embrace. She hugged the scaled snout, laughing and crying. You did it. You protected everyone. Around them, beings emerged from shelters. They had seen what happened. A creature they had feared, that had nearly been expelled from the station, had just saved their lives. That a crystalline mother approached slowly, carrying her child. The youngster who had been so frightened at first. She knelt before Ashwing, placing one faceted hand on the Draken's foot. "Thank you," she said simply, "for protecting my family." Others came forward, one by one. Beings of a dozen species approached the Draken, not with fear, but with gratitude. Ashwing rumbled softly, accepting their thanks with the gentle dignity of one who understood the weight of what had happened. That evening, Lily sat in the gardens with her parents and Dr. Harrow, watching Ashwing doze peacefully. The station was repairing itself, but something fundamental had changed. "They're calling Ashwing the guardian of Harmonia," Ruth said, reading the news feeds. "There's already discussion of changing regulations across the galaxy, about reclassifying Drakens as protected sentient beings." David shook his head in wonder. All because her daughter walked up to a monster and saw a friend. "Not a monster," Lily corrected sleepily, leaning against Ashwing's warm side. "Never a monster. Just scared and alone, like any of us could be." Dr. Harrow smiled, making final notes in his research log. He wrote, "Humanity's gift to the galaxy is not their technology or their courage. It is their fundamental belief that everyone, no matter how different or dangerous they seem, deserves a chance at friendship first. They approach with open hands and open hearts, and in doing so, they transform the untamed into the beloved, the feared into the cherished." On Station Harmonia, a child and a dragon slept peacefully, and the galaxy learned that sometimes the bravest thing is not running away from monsters. It is walking toward them with kindness and discovering they were never monsters at all.